Sarah, the president said yesterday the U.S. is ready to embrace peace. He's calling for more economic sanctions on Iran's already struggling economy. He did say that Iran is standing down. So why is the House putting up this resolution to try to limit the president's powers?
I can't think of anything dumber than allowing Congress to take over our foreign policy. They can't seem to manage to get much of anything done. I think the last thing we want to do is push powers into Congress's hands and take them away from the president. Any Democrat that doesn't understand that America is safer now that one of the most dangerous terrorists in the world is rotting in hell is completely naive and completely misses what we need to have in a foreign policy. And the last thing I want to do is see them take power away from President Trump and put it into their own hands. I don't think anything could be worse for America than that.
Right. The last thing we'd ever want to do is allow Congress to exercise their constitutional right to declare war. Sarah Huckabee Sanders can't think of anything dumber than following the Constitution. In her defense, Sanders emerging from retirement solely to suggest that it's insane to allow Congress to regain the powers afforded to them in the Constitution so that Trump could exercise them instead is the most Sarah Huckabee Sanders move possible. So at least she's consistent. Now, she'll lean on the excuse that she said foreign policy and not war powers, but in case there's any doubt, that's exactly what this is in reference to. For Trump, war powers are his foreign policy in the Middle East. With the exception of Saudi Arabia because they rent rooms in his properties, I mean they're a close ally, Trump's idea of diplomacy is dropping bombs and launching legally tenuous attacks on people. And that was put on full display last week when he opted to take what had reportedly been the quote, extreme option presented to him in response to an Iranian-backed attack on the US Embassy in Baghdad by opting to assassinate Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani. Now, despite Sarah Huckabee Sanders pearl clutching at the very notion that we should ever dare to put checks on this president, the fact is that they're there for good reason. First and foremost, Trump's attack on Soleimani wasn't legal. We weren't at war with Iran, so the only way that he'd be able to legally kill their top general would be if there was an imminent threat. Only, the White House has refused to show any indication of an imminent threat. Intelligence officials who spoke with reporters called evidence suggesting such a threat to be, quote, razor thin. And even Republican senators who attended a briefing by administration officials fumed at the non-existent rationale for the strike.
I still haven't had the questions answered that I came into that briefing expecting to ask. They left after 75 minutes. Now, I understand these are busy people. They've got a lot of demands on their time. They're appearing before a coordinate branch of government responsible for their funding, for their confirmation, for any approval of any military action they might undertake. And they had to leave after 75 minutes while they're in the process of telling us that we need to be good little boys and girls and run along and not debate this in public. I find that absolutely insane. I think it's unacceptable. And so I don't know what they had in mind. I went in there hoping to get more specifics as far as the factual, legal, moral justification for what they did. I'm still undecided on that issue, in part because we never got to the details. Every time we got close, they'd say, well, we can't discuss that here because it's really sensitive. We're in a skiff. We're in a secure underground bunker where all electronic devices have to be checked at the door, and they still refuse to tell us. I find that really upsetting.
The fact is, international and domestic law is there for a reason. Laws are only effective insofar as we decide to follow them. So if the United States shows the world that it's willing to launch extrajudicial assassinations on people, what's to stop the rest of the world from doing the same and then pointing to the United States when they're called out for it? This is how we keep Americans safe too. But if we decide that it's open season to kill anyone, then how could we possibly expect those who wish harm onto Americans to show restraint? And beyond the legal rationale, there are the geopolitical consequences. Is it worth risking war with Iran and possibly their allies because Trump wanted to beat his chest and issue a disproportionate response because he thought it'd make him look strong before the next election? Trump's mouthpieces like Sanders will lean on the fact that Soleimani was a depraved figure, and he was, but that's not the issue at hand. Kim Jong-un is a bad guy. Are we going to risk war with North Korea to take him out? Erdogan in Turkey? Putin in Russia? Obviously not, because the risks outweigh the benefits, and we're not willing to dive into yet another war in the Middle East to put American lives at risk and spend another $1 trillion and usher in another recession, all because a few warmongers can't help curb their insatiable desire to try out their new warplanes. What's become blatantly obvious is that we don't have a coherent strategy. Indiscriminately assassinating some people that are bad while cozying up to other authoritarians and dictators isn't a foreign policy. It's predicating our international relations on the whims of one unstable narcissist whose feelings change on a daily basis depending on which way the wind is blowing. Of course, you shouldn't expect any sense of risks or nuance or consequences from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, whose sole priority is nothing more than groveling at the feet of the only person who's capable of lying more than she does.